Have a good day at school, Jazzy. Yeah, you be good, chicken. I'm taking Soph sort of part of the way to work today, which is quite fun. I've dropped Soph off at the station because her car is not working yet. Kind of annoying, means she's not going to have a car all weekend, but handily enough I tend to drive at the weekends anyway, so that's not too much of a problem. I'm heading off to grab Jazzy from from school. I'm gonna get that through my head, I really am. And then we get to talk about hydrogen. Yes! Just gonna grab a coffee. Right. Now, today's been thrown into disarray a little bit by Elon Musk and his big frickin' rocket, or BFR. I'm extremely excited about this, but we're gonna talk about it tomorrow, I think, when I'm gonna be meeting up with Mark. It's gonna be good fun, go for a little skate. However, speaking of Mark, he has sent me an interview that he did between himself and a company that is a fully paid up member of the Hydrogen Brigade. The guy that Mark talked to was Hugo Spowers, I believe. He is in charge of design and engineering, again, I think.
And to create a market for a hydrogen car for local use.
He spouted a few different things which I kind of take issue with. Principally, one of his concerns and one of the reasons why he feels that hydrogen is a good way to go for personal transport.
So if you take a 20 pump motorway services and replace the pumps with the charging infrastructure, Tesla 120 kilowatt superchargers, to give you the same throughput of cars, because it takes 6 times as long at least, you'd need 120 superchargers, which would need 14.4 megawatt substation to support it, which is the average consumption of 32,000 homes in the UK.
Which is true, I'm not denying that. It takes a huge amount of power in order to compress the hydrogen, like enormous amount, almost as much as it would take to charge up an electric car anyway, and it takes time. So in order to do the throughput, you probably need far more than 20 hydrogen pumps anyway, because after the 4th or 5th car the buffer tanks would be empty and you'd have to wait. You know, loads of people in the US have turned up to hydrogen stations and found that it's taken 20 minutes, half an hour, to get half a tank's worth of hydrogen, because it's only serving 50% pressure, because they haven't compressed it yet. So there's massive question marks over the infrastructure, both from a technical point of view and also from a cost point of view. Time to get Jasper now, and it's raining like crazy. Great. Now we're going to pick up Mummy, aren't we, Jasper? We've got Soph. Jasper's asleep. I've got to go do some editing. I love SpaceX. It's so awesome. I can't wait to talk about this tomorrow with Mark. But now I really must get on with the editing, and then I'll finish watching this. Right, let's break down what this guy's saying.
700 kilo battery, this is 580. So, and the weight, and so, and the weight, the efficiency of a car in real world terms is hugely dependent on weight.
Right.
Every time you accelerate and brake, its weight is what matters.
This weight thing is, in my opinion, a complete red herring. Okay, yes, you lose 30% of the energy it requires to accelerate if you then go into regen and you lose, and that comes back out. That's assuming that you don't have a sort of a proportion of that braking which is actually just coasting, losing speed through coast, which is basically 100% efficiency. Given that that's the case, weight does not make a huge amount of difference. Certainly I have not found that weight is the killer problem with a Model S. Absolutely not. Just make sure you're not braking using the physical brakes and you're good.
And if you're using a car for local use, as I say, it's a very large proportion of our 300 mile range.
There's another problem here, right here. You know, this whole cars for local use thing, you would have thought people would have worked out by now that people don't buy a car for just local use. There's a very tiny number of people that are happy to do that. There are some, but it's minute. That's why Nissan didn't sell a humongous number of 24 kilowatt hour Nissan Leafs, because people just weren't sure about the idea of, okay, so I'll have this car in London, it'll do me for a week before I need to recharge it. But what happens when I want to drive to Devon to see my auntie? You've got to have an answer for that. And the answer can't be, will you rent another car? Will you take the train? Because then people think, well, hang on a minute, I bought the car so it could do that journey when I want to do that journey. I didn't buy the car so I can take the train. I'd take the train without buying the car.
If you're doing a car for local use, there are 17 filling stations, there's 51 cars. The problem is there's lots of people like Shell who are dead keen to invest in hydrogen infrastructure. We don't need to do it and we're not going to do it. But there's no point in them doing it when there's 17 filling stations already and only 51 cars in the UK.
There's 51 hydrogen vehicles out there. So at the moment it'll be fine provided you live near one of those filling stations and you don't plan on going anywhere else. You see, the thing about refueling your vehicle is what you want, whether it's petrol, diesel, hydrogen or battery electric, is to be able to refuel it at a point in time that is convenient to you, preferably while you're doing something else that takes up that amount of time. Now, with petrol and diesel, you can refuel them very quickly, so you kind of just stand by the pump and grumble a bit for a few minutes about being late for wherever you're going. For an electric vehicle, you don't have to worry about doing that for short journeys, it's only the longer journeys, so you just have to remember to build in, you know, a bit of time in the middle of your 5 hours worth of driving to get some lunch and a coffee. Well, that's fine, I have no problem with that. I think everyone actually should do that anyway. When it comes to a hydrogen vehicle, you not only have to build in the time to fuel your vehicle during the, you know, like a petrol or diesel for local area stuff, you know, you may well come to your vehicle and think, ah, damn it, the tank's almost empty. I can't go to the next town that's 15 miles away. I have to go in the other direction to the hydrogen filling station, which is the problem because they're not all over the place. So when it comes to filling it up, you may well have to drive in the opposite direction 10 miles, then turn around and go back to the town you wanted to go to, you know, which is now 25 miles away. It's just, you know, not exactly convenient versus waking up and having a fully charged car. And then you have the longer distance where the chances of your hydrogen filling station being en route are quite remote. Therefore, you have to not only have that break that you need, which won't be long enough, you'll also most likely have to drive off your route to get to this hydrogen refilling station, and then you have to drive back to your route and go on. It's hassle, with more planning than with an electric vehicle, and more hassle than an electric vehicle for local driving, and nothing like the minimal refueling time required and lack of planning that you get with a petrol and diesel. So it's basically, oh, and did I mention the cost? Hydrogen is either going to be given to you free by the manufacturer as a perk, because let's face it, they only sold 50 cars, so who cares if it costs them a little bit of money, or you have to pay for it. And if you pay for it, because of the efficiencies and the storage and the cost of the infrastructure, you're really talking at least petrol and diesel prices. So you're not going to save any money. And then you've got, on top of that, the cost of the fuel cell, which, because it's got to contain some platinum, because that's the only catalyst that will work at a room temperature to make energy from the combination of hydrogen and oxygen, even if you have only a very small amount of platinum, you're still talking about high pressure valves and hoses and tanks. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be more expensive than a petrol or diesel car by quite a way. Am I selling you on hydrogen yet? Anyway, I rant on about this stuff forever. I'm not saying it isn't an interesting little project. I'm not saying there won't be some people out there who will think, yeah, that's fantastic. And for a small business, a niche business, I think, you know, they're going to survive for a few years probably, and it'll be interesting. But for the mass market, it is ridiculous. And now let me just address the infrastructure for electric vehicles. Yes, you're going to need many more quick chargers. They're going to need to be all over the place, but you don't need to build as much infrastructure because, as we've already said, 90% of the time people will drive around within the range of their vehicle from their home. So if you've got a 300-mile vehicle, that takes you out to about 120 miles from your home and back again, leaving you a reasonable buffer. So within that 120-mile radius, which is a huge swathe of the UK, that's like the whole of the southeast basically, you don't need to worry about recharging a vehicle with a battery that size. You can just do it at home. So you don't need any infrastructure at all within that radius. It's only when you go beyond that that you need to start using infrastructure. Hydrogen vehicles, they're going to need it everywhere. And don't forget, they've got about the same range as an electric vehicle. So, you know, the build-out requirements are enormous. Yes, you don't have to put so many wires and substations into, say, a motorway service area. Sure, what you do have to do is somehow get hydrogen on site, which for the most part is going to mean tankers. You know, it'd be nice to get those off the road. You don't want people driving around with, you know, 5,000 PSI hydrogen on the back of their tanker. You know, accidents happen. Right, that brings that to the end. I just want to say a massive thank you to Mark for letting me use his footage of this little impromptu interview. I'm going to see him tomorrow for a bit of electric skateboarding, where we're going to talk about this BFR rocket, which, yeah, I am very, Elon Musk in space, it just really gets me going. I can hear Soap squawking about supper in the background, so I'm going to say goodbye for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog post and found it interesting. If you have, remember to like it, share it and subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Instagram if you don't already, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next instalment of my daily vlog. Bye! It's raining like crazy. Great. And microphone ran out of power on my other camera. Brilliant. So I've got to repeat everything again, which is fine. All I was basically saying was that the guy's nuts. No, I'm paraphrasing. There's some serious paraphrasing right there.